Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the World Economic Forum and Davos and World Government Forum and all these sort of stuff, and have a, if you go on their website and dig through their paraphernalia on there and their propaganda, and more propaganda than anything, but white papers and that sort of thing, discussion papers and the like. And if you sift through it, they're kind of signaling what they're doing and what they're building up to and the sort of situation they're creating and the world conflicts they're precipitating and underwriting in order to force the globalist project upon us. And rather than sort of go straight for the brutal sort of approach, they try and do the mind conditioning and the propaganda first. They're quite prepared to do the brutal shit if the other stuff doesn't work, but they'd like to maybe tell as many lies as they can in the build-up. So that's really, and among these crazy sort of things, they dress up in these virtuous-sounding phrases. Is, wait for this, they're talking about global food equity. And they even break it down further and say protein equity. So they're claiming to be all righteous and self-righteous, that food consumption in the world is not equal, and that's a bad thing. Somebody's got to do something about it. And middle class and working class white people in the Western world have to have less, so it can be given to third world peasants. And this creates this equity, inclusion. And if you've got a problem with that, you damn fascist Nazi Hitler. So this is the direction they're going in terms of how to redistribute food and consumption around the world. Now, the arguments are, of course, quite tenuous, if not absurd and ridiculous, and only fanatical doctrinaire ideologues could dream up shit like this. But that's what the globalists are. They've got no scrutiny on them. There's no media. The mainstream media isn't exposing them. They own all the governments in the world, so no one's criticising them or exposing their utter bullshit to sunlight, so they can get away with it. And they become, as each year goes by, they become brassier and brassier and more casual about it. And they go, well, we're going to do this, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it, which is pretty much sums up their attitude. This is whether there be a pandemic or alleged supply chain shortages. Now, if you look at what's happening at the moment with the easily avoidable something they've been working on for quite a while now, trying to get some sort of war with Russia or some sort of conflict in that region. I think anything would have done. Then they can say, well, the food shortages, the COVID supply chain thing, it wasn't us, we didn't do it, it was COVID. And then the war in Russia, it wasn't us, we didn't do it, it was Putin did it, Nazis, Hitler, and they can do that and hide behind that and then say, well, now we've got this problem, we have to be inclusive. We have to be inclusive about this in order to find the solutions. We have to come together, inclusion. And have you got a problem with that, you damn fascist Nazi? So this is where they're going with this protein thing. And really it's and food equity. Artificially created shortages, which then involve redistribution. So the redistribution can happen in a couple of ways. One is they bring, and this is, let me come back to the globalist objective. The globalist objective is to have everyone in the world having just enough, if you like, purchasing power and so on to consume the basic minimum of resources in terms of shelter, food, water, and whatever energy and whatever consumer goods that are owned. Now everything will be owned by the globalists, by these mega monopoly corporations, food production, everything, and that's going to, you have to consume from them. So if you bring it down to its most basic, what they want is everyone in the world, other than the elites, everyone in the world to have on or about as much capacity to access the minimum resources such as food, water, energy, and so on. So this gives them billions of consumers that are forced to buy the basics from 1.5 out of 7+ billion, you've got 1.5 billion people who've got decent purchasing power for the globalist thing. And then you've got a lot of people, Africa, and a lot of Indians, and and the Indian subcontinent generally, a lot of rural parts of China. They can't consume anything really. They're just subsistence peasants in effect. So you've got 1.5 billion, maybe a billion you'd sort of put in the lower middle, and then the rest of these peasants consuming hand to mouth. And they're not part of the world economy. The globalists can't really sell them anything or make them buy anything or force them to consume the globalist sort of monopoly contrived products or services. So the idea is to bring all those people in, and they simply, just to, this is rather a frank sort of look, they're going to take money from white people in the West and effectively give it to these third world peasants. Now, whether they achieve that by bringing those people into the West, which of course they're doing now, but to say there's 1 billion people in the West, 1 billion, it's still only sort of 15% or so of the world population. So if they can stuff another 2 billion or so into the West, so 3 billion, and then they can massage some of that money away into the third world. Now, I don't think it's going to work. I think they'll fuck it up. But again, because they're not exposed to any criticism, there's no checks and balances against what they do. They're able to do the dumbest things, and they're not very bright. They're able to do the dumbest things, and if they fuck it up, it's won't be them that are paying the price. So they can afford to do. Now, whenever power concentrates too tightly, as it is now in the globalist hand, then they act without restraint, and they become more casual. That any amount of collateral damage, millions, tens of millions of people dying, it's collateral damage. And they were non-believers anyway. They didn't have the right attitude. They were all Hitlers, and they deserved to die. And these are the mentalities that the Mao Zedongs and the Joe Stalins and so on, Pol Pot, the list goes on. These sort of people, well, it's the non-believers who are dying, and they deserve to die because they don't have the right attitude. And you can see that in the United States today. A speaker comes on campus who doesn't have the right ideas according to the Radical Student Union, and they wish death on actually wish death onto the speaker for not having the right attitude. Can you believe it? The insanity of these ideological fanatics, and the World Economic Forum and all these people that are pushing food equity, protein equity. These are the sort of people. These are the doctrinaire fanatics that can run around unopposed, unchecked, and unquestioned. So there's moving people into the West to, which they're doing now, and trying to level it all out. So anything other than that 1 in 500 people who's the elites and a few of their helpers and flunkies and neighbours, then all the rest will be effectively forced to consume at about the same level, because they'll all be forced to have the same sort of resources. And all jobs will be checklist jobs that effectively anyone can do. So the fact that you're brighter or harder working or something, it's not really going to be relevant in the future that the globalists are envisaging. So this will create a uniformity of income, uniformity of opportunity, and uniformity of consumption, which is where they're going with this. Now, they justify it in a few ways. One is the equity thing. Look at that poor black peasant in Africa, and they're starving, while the white people in the rich countries, they've got a diet of meat and vegetables and grains and fruit. And look at that. It's not right. Where's the equity in this? Where's the equity? Those white people, they're all taking food out of the mouths of these poor black peasants. Now, of course, it's way more nuanced than that. The white people have very stable, well-managed societies, and the black countries have very unstable societies, constantly in civil war, very poor crop management and maintenance. They're talking about shooting yourself in the foot. These are self-inflicted wounds that these areas and tribes and subgroups within tribes have, and so the idea that it's some cosmic injustice is nonsense. they have badly managed, badly run, unstable societies, and unstable, badly run, badly managed societies really struggle to have efficient crop planting seasons, management of animals and all this sort of thing. They fuck it up and they do a very bad job. As a result, people starve. Now there should be help in terms of the international community should provide grains and so on and other foodstuffs and provide camps where United Nations is a case in point. Camps can provide food, but I don't know how much you can do beyond that, other than the white people coming in and saying, well, you can't manage your economy. We'll have to manage it for you just to make sure you guys got enough to eat. Now, if they do that, then you've got the colonialism. Oh, white people, colonialism, oppression, slavery, Hitler. So you've got all that sort of stuff will come out. So they can't do that. The look's no good on that one. So the idea is bring as many of those black peasants into the West as you can, and then create sort of an artificial equity that way, or steal whatever else you can from the West and take it to these countries. I don't think that's going to work. I think the only solution is to from a globalist perspective, in this ideological equity crap they're on about, is to bring the people into the West, into the well-managed economies, and then force the white people who are there already, who built the society, to just have and consume less until it's equal with the incoming illiterate peasants. And that'll be this form of unicorn equity. Now the other, or there's two other directions they're coming out. One is they're saying that the population of the world is going to exceed 10 billion within the next 30 to 40 years, I think, are the projections. Now, the growth will come in two areas. The population growth will primarily come in two areas. In fact, nearly all of it will come from A, Africa, and B, the Indian subcontinent. That's where it's going to come from. And these are already, very, very, very poor areas. Now, the Indian population is projected to become the most populous nation in the world, and within the next, some are even projecting the next few years, 5 years, within 5 years it'll happen. So this is where all the population grows. So it's going to be black Africans and Indians, the peasants from both of those places. They're going to be stuffed into the West in huge numbers, without the agreement or the consent of the local population. But that doesn't matter anymore. The globalists own all the governments of the West, and they own all the media, all the propaganda machines. So again, they can do this without scrutiny, without question, and without any thought or care for the collateral damage that it causes. So moving the 10 billion population, I don't know if it'll quite hit that, but let's assume it does just for the moment. Then they're arguing, because there's going to be so many people, we therefore must take action to reduce consumption. But they're really not talking about reducing it, they're talking about redistributing it. So there's a difference there. Maybe consumption is reduced in some ways, but the idea that there will be less overall consumption, that seems to be a bit of a stretch, because they want to bring the illiterate third world peasants up to have a better diet, and then reduce the diet in terms of calories of the white populations of the world. So that's their aim. Now, the other thing they go on is to say, well, climate change, all these new people coming in, it's going to create pressure on climate change, and humans should not have to share the planet with farm animals, for example, cows and things like that, sheep and whatnot. So consuming protein as an animal protein is going to be, they want to get rid of it. It's quite clear. It's across all their papers, and they're using every scam and pretext to push for it and justify it. And again, they control all the Western governments, so they'll do it if they want to. There's no politician speaking out against it, no Western politician. They're all globalist stooges. So the idea of getting rid of animals, the farm animals in this case, and creating protein from various sources. I mean, it could be tofu, for example, or any lab-created thing. Now, the thing that the direction they're going in here is that protein will be in various forms and will be equivalent to something issued by a dietitian, and will come in either liquids or tablets and that sort of thing. There may be some that's made to look like meat or taste similar to it, but effectively it's going to be almost a pharmaceutical-based delivery of calories and proteins and so on. And it would appear to be where they're going with this is that will then be controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. I don't know if you remember, watching anybody who's watches reruns of I think it was like a 1960, 1961 American space exploration TV show called Lost in Space, and all their food was in tablet form. So they'd have a tablet that was called chicken sandwiches, for example, and that had the same taste and allegedly the same protein and calorie and nutritional content of an actual fresh chicken sandwich, or such was the scripting and the futuristic imagination of the program's creators. So there'd be a chicken sandwiches one, or roast beef and potatoes tablet, and so on. So this seems to be where it's going. But the control of this, if I'm understanding the drift correctly, the control of all this food administering and distribution will be controlled by the big pharmaceutical firms, which is why they seem to be so very much on board with this. That seems to be the direction. Excuse me. And that's the buy-in that the globalists are achieving. For our friends, there will be much bounty and benefit if you go along with the globalist project. For the politicians that we control, we will make sure you have beautiful waterfront house, lots of expensive real estate, lots of prostitutes, lots of this, lots of that. You'll have all these sort of things. To the big firms, that the big multinational companies are going to form the backbone of the futuristic monopoly society, where every citizen in the world will be forced to buy their products or services. Then they say, okay, you come with us and you will be your company will be unbelievably wealthy and rich going into the future, and all the executives on board will be part of an elite that will live in the clouds and the stratosphere in terms of wealth and that sort of stuff. And that could be Disney for propaganda or pharmaceutical companies for distributing food. So they've gone down the path of what they call protein equity. And this has great appeal to the ideological fanatics, particularly the university kids or something, where they can say, look, the little starving African peasant there is only getting for example, 1 kilo of meat a year, whereas in America it's 49.5 kilos per person per year. That's wrong. It's not equal. Where's the inclusion, the equity? And if you've got a problem with that, you damn fascist Nazi Hitler. So this is the equity concept, which sucks in the young and the stupid, and the colleges are not short on them these days. So, but if you go to these same people and say, all right, then, well, you had takeout fast food. It could be, I don't know, pepperoni pizza or anything. So will you give that up in order to make sure Africans have, so no more pizza, no more burgers, no more steak, just so these starving African and Indian peasants can have a better diet. Oh, no, I don't want to give it up. No, the other people have to give it up, not me. So you'd be hard to find anyone who will voluntarily give it up. So it's going to have to be forced on them through propaganda and threat and equity, and using falsely created disasters such as, there's a worldwide famine because of Putin, Hitler. It'll be all that. It'll be dressed up that way, but in effect, it'll be the same. It's creating an artificial crisis to justify action that was already planned a long time ago. Now, if you go through the development of these arguments, through the Davos and World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, Soros, all those sort of players, really looking at this has been around for, at the very least in writing, for 7 or 8 years. It started to crystallize over the last couple of years, and now it's approaching a point of reality. And don't sell these globalist guys short. If they make a tilt at it and it doesn't work the first time, they'll look and say, well, why didn't that work? Well, gee whiz, those politicians over there are a little bit too independently minded. They actually care about the people in their country who elected them. That won't do. That's no good. We've got to get rid of them and replace them with good little globalists. And that Food and Drug Administration guy there who voted against. Okay, well, look, let's just make sure that we can find a little waif of a woman who's with a torn blouse and say he raped me, and then we can get rid of him, and then we can get rid of someone over there. All right, now I think we've got that all nailed down. Now we've replaced the people who got on our way last time. All right, let's have another tilt at it. Hey, we've managed to get it through. Wow, isn't that good? And the media and all that, no one's going to scrutinise it. No one's going to say, hey, well, this is a bit odd, isn't it? Everyone opposed it last time has magically lost their job or been found to be a rapist or something, a child beater or this, that, and the thing. Isn't that amazing? All of these people neutralised, all in a single pass. That's crazy. So that's the path they'll go down on this, and I think already have. And so we can see there's going to be more of this. Now there is elements that if it's possible to manufacture meat tasting foods equally or more nutritious without any other health side effects or something like that, and it's well priced and people want to buy it in a free market at their own choice and discretion, I got no problem with that. If you got those sort of products and those sort of technology, put it out there and let people buy it. But like global warming and like the solutions to global warming, that isn't how it's going to work. People will be forced to go down that path without their consent. And as they've got no elected representatives anymore who represent them, and there's no free media anymore, or pretty much no free media, then there's no one to call it out, and they'll be able to impose it on us. And probably get away with it. I'm hoping not, but it certainly looks that way. But you've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.